Today, I want to tell you a story. Not because it's comfortable to tell, although I have become more comfortable telling it over the years, but because I think it explains why I do all of the work that I do today. It's the story of when my own coaches completely missed my burnout 1 and my burnout 2. Now, my first burnout made me really seriously ill. My second nearly killed me. Both times I was working with brilliant coaches. I didn't see it coming, and neither did they. So before I go any further, I want to say something that might actually surprise you. But I don't blame them. I don't blame the coach that I was working with in the run-up to burnout number 1. And I don't blame the coach that I was working with in the run-up to burnout number 2. Because they were coaching me with the knowledge that they had at the time. So the truth really is, I didn't see it. My family didn't see it. My colleagues didn't see it. The people around me, my friends, they were all missing it. Because burnout didn't look like any of us actually thought it would. And even when I had consultants telling me after 7 months of pain and regular hospital admittances and 2 operations in 48 hours, even when I had medical consultants telling me, you need to make some changes because you're at burnout, I didn't think they knew what they were talking about. Because burnout didn't happen to people like me. I wasn't somebody that burnout happened to. I was a high performer, high achiever. I was successful. I'd got my seat at the table at 30. I was a mum. On paper, my life looked absolutely perfect. Burnout happened to that lot over there, the people that couldn't cope. Burnout did not happen to people like me. At the time, right, I'm going back 13 odd years now, right? 2013. Burnout at the time I thought was just stress. I was the type of person that strived under pressure, that thrived in stressful environments. And it's for these reasons that I think this conversation matters so much. So let's tell you a little bit more about my story. Because this might also be the story of your clients. Because I loved my work. I was driven. I was ambitious. My parents will say that I came out of the womb as a high achiever. I was moved up here at school. I did well at school. I did everything really that I kind of put my mind to. I wasn't brilliant at everything, but I was good at lots of things. Lots of things came really easy to me. I love detail. I love progress. I love moving. I love success. I was and I continue to be successful. I was also, though, without really realising it, a bit of a people pleaser and a bit of a perfectionist, which I now understand to be driven by fear. But somewhere along the line, I learned that achieving and success and goals and promotions and grades and pay rises and status and all of those things equated to being successful. How often did you hear, how often have your clients heard that, if you want a good life, if you want a better life than your parents, you just got to work hard. Knuckle down at school, get the grades, perform on the field, perform on the track, keep performing, keep pushing, lift the weights, run the marathon, cross the finish line, do all of this stuff. If you want a good life, you have to work hard. If you want a good life, you have to have the right mindset. If you want the nice house and the nice cars and everything that we are told success looks like, you work hard. I mean, even chocolate bars in the 80s when I grew up, right, were telling us to work hard, play hard. Work, rest, play, hustle harder, sleep when you're dead. It was all about momentum. It was all about success. It was about goals. It was about external validation. All of the externals, right? Keeping up with the Joneses. They got a new car, you got a new car. They got a TV, you got a TV. They got a holiday, you got a holiday. Somebody rocks up in the new Nike, Nike Air Max, you want the new Nike Air Max. Somebody rocks up with the latest bike, you want the latest bike. All the way through school, all of my friendship groups. And then again, when I started in my careers, I was being rewarded for pushing harder. All of the pay rises, all of the goals, all of the status. And some of those pay rises and some of those promotions, I didn't really have to work particularly hard for, but something in my head then almost forced me to be pushing and working harder, because success wasn't meant to be easy. I'd been told my entire life, work hard, play hard, rest hard, do hard. It's got to be hard. So even when things started to feel, I did that, here's another promotion. I had a 7-year period, or an 8-year period rather, 8 years. I had 7 promotions. During that 8-year period, I added over £100,000 to my salary. I got my role at the C-suite at 30. Not all of those promotions came hard. And sometimes that was the hardest bit, because it wasn't meant to be easy. And so I would push harder for more of the external validation. And I had earlier on in my career, even kind of, early and mid 20s, I was working with coaches. But what I will say here is that I was given coaches. 2 CEOs that I worked for literally assigned me coaches, and I didn't trust those coaches. I didn't feel that I could be honest in session. I didn't feel that I could open up. I didn't feel that I could say anything that was of actually any value. And I remember speaking to both of my chief execs at the time, and as I don't think I'm getting much out of the coaching, not because I didn't want coaching, but because I didn't have a relationship with the coaches that I'd been assigned. There was just something that felt off in session. There was something that just made me think, I can't trust you. There was something in me that thought, whatever I tell you is going straight back to my bosses. Whatever I tell you is going straight back to my CEO. This is not a safe space. And I remember asking both of my CEOs, well, two of my CEOs, when they'd assigned me these coaches, is there a different coach that I could work with? I wasn't saying no to coaching, but I was saying no to coaching that felt unsafe. I was saying no to coaching that I didn't feel was adding me any value. Well, these are the coaches that we're working with. And it just so happened in both of these organisations with both of these CEOs, the coaches that I had been assigned were also the coaches for the CEO and for other colleagues and for a number of other different leaders across the organisation. I now know, you can, of course, build relationships with a number of different people across organisations. Of course you can. But if you're coaching that many people and you're coaching succession ladders, where is the impartiality? So that was a feeling that I had around some of the coaches that I got. So in the run up to burnout number 1, I actually got to pick my own coach, and it felt a little bit like Christmas. And I can remember doing these Google searches, and I can remember looking on specific coaching websites and looking at testimonials and reviews and looking at profiles and looking at the faces on these coaching websites of the people that I could see, looking at these faces, looking at their experience, looking at their qualifications. And so who is it that I want to work with? And I can remember when I chose the coach that I was working with in the run up to burnout number 1, I was like, it was honestly one of the best conversations, one of the best relationships that I'd had in my entire corporate career. I had somebody listening to me. I had somebody holding space for me. I had somebody that was interested in my growth and my development and my opinions, and that would ask me questions to really get me thinking, changing my thought processes, changing my pace, changing my views, changing ways in which I was working, changing some of the ways in which I was communicating. Like, it genuinely felt magic. But what none of us spotted was how a lot of that momentum was actually survival mode. What we didn't really realise was that a lot of what I was taking into session were the signs of burnout. What we didn't realise that it was an accumulation of years of toxicity, working with toxic colleagues in toxic workplaces, dealing with toxic consultants and previous toxic coaches. And so in the space that I was working with this amazing coach, the coaching was phenomenal, but it didn't stop me getting to burnout. And we talked about some of the signs of what was going on for me. We talked about this pain that I was experiencing. We were talking about the hospital admittances, and we both kind of brushed it off to, well, the doctors really need to kind of, get a move on, do some more tests and find out what's wrong with you, don't they? None of us saw this is burnout. And so the coaching continued to just focus on momentum and progress and movement. And then I ended up having to have 2 operations in 48 hours. And after recovering from those 2 operations, I went back into that same toxic workplace. And on day 1, I was like, this is not where I want to be. This is not the place for me. I remember having a conversation with my coach, and together then we started to plan my exit. And 3 months later, I'd left corporate, no financial security whatsoever. My then husband and I had spent every single penny we had on buying and doing up a house. I had no financial cushion, but I knew I couldn't stay there. I'd started to apply for other jobs, not realising that actually they all just looked the same on paper. So I ended up starting my own consultancy. When I was doing my own coach training and finishing my own coach training, one of the questions that I talk about in some of my previous videos, right? One of my favourite questions, the who are you question. As I was going deeper and deeper with that question, I heard myself say for the first time, like, I want my own business. I want to coach full time. I want to help leaders. I want to create change. I want to be able to create the change that I can't change internally, because the internal leaders aren't interested. But I could have this. I heard myself say I was going to be this external business owner, this consultant, this coach that was going to go into other organisations. And I genuinely thought I was a corporate lifer. So my coach helped me plan that exit. But because we'd missed the burnout and we thought that these 2 operations I'd had in 48 hours had fixed the issue, we carried on setting goals. We carried on talking about business growth. We started talking about exit. We started talking about what everything would look like. And then when I left my corporate role, I lost that coach. But I started working with another coach, and this was one that was more focused on business. And we set goals and we set tasks and we did everything that we needed to do to get me performing, to get me to stand out, to get me to be like, the new kid on the block in terms of new consultancy, the vibrancy, the boldness, the different branding, the different attitude, the way that I dressed, the way that I showed up, even the fact that I would walk into a room wearing bright lipstick and my bright white hair was enough to kind of stand out in a sea of grey pinstripe suits. As the coach that I was working with then was about, let's stand out more, let's be more bold, let's be more enthusiastic, let's expand, let's go bigger. And my second burnout nearly killed me. But I'd been showing up in coaching, I'd been doing the work, I'd been achieving, I'd been performing, I'd been, my coach would say to me, Kelly, we do this, I would do that. My coach said, double my prices, I'd double my prices. My coach said, double your prices again, I doubled my prices again. My coach said, go for this opportunity, I went for that opportunity. My coach said, bring people into the business, I brought people into the business. My coach said, recruit, I recruited. Brilliant coaches, brilliant definitions of success. All of the goals, all of the mindset shifts, everything was there. And yet my first burnout made me really seriously ill. And my second nearly killed me. But as I said at the start of this video, I can't blame them, because they were doing what they'd been trained to do. They were asking me brilliant questions. They were helping me to think and to think differently. They supported me, they challenged me, they stretched me, they believed in me. And none of those things are inherently wrong, are they? Because again, that's what we get trained as coaches to do. But they were coaching the person that they thought was sitting in front of them, not the person that burnout was fundamentally changing. They were coaching the high performer, high achieving Kelly that had been moved up at school and got 8 promotions over a 7-year period and added more than £100,000 to her salary and was winning awards and was top of this and top of that and top of the other. They were coaching the person that was showing up to the sessions, not realizing that burnout was fundamentally changing the brain, the body, and the nervous system of the person that they were coaching. And over the years, I've realized that my coaches didn't fail. But I have really come to understand that the coaching profession hadn't caught up yet with what we know about burnout. 13 years ago, we knew about stress, we knew about resilience, we knew about performance. We didn't necessarily, though, understand cognition and what burnout does to our cognitive abilities. We weren't talking in coaching about the nervous system or the impact on executive functioning. We weren't focused on the biology or the neuroscience. And this is why this isn't blame, but it is about talking about evolution and what needs to evolve, because I absolutely think that coaching is going through that evolution right now. And people often ask why I'm so passionate about changing burnout coaching, why I'm so passionate about changing coaching to make sure that all of it is burnout informed. And this is why. Because I don't want another coach sitting where my coach sat, looking back months or even years later thinking, I wish I'd known. Because knowledge changes everything. And not because coaches become different people, but because burnout informed coaches that understand burnout, see things differently. And if my coaches had understood burnout the way that I understand it today, my recovery could have looked very different. My corporate exit could have looked very different. My corporate career could have looked very different. My corporate career could have survived. Now, of course, they're all maybes. Maybe it would have happened and maybe not. I will never know. But I do know this. Burnout changed me. The whole experience changed me. The coaches that I had been given in corporate and the coaches that I got to choose for myself, they changed me. All of those things have shaped my research. Those things have helped me shape burnoutology. It shaped the way that I coach, the way that I lead and manage and talk and run my business. And it's the reason that I believe every coach deserves and needs burnout education. Because we're no longer coaching in a world where burnout is rare. We are coaching in a world where burnout is becoming normal. And that's something that our profession as coaches cannot afford to ignore. Now, my coach didn't miss my burnout because they were a bad coach. But they missed it because burnout was changing me faster than coaching was. I'm going to say thank you very much for watching. If you want to learn more about the evolution of burnout coaching and why more than ever we need coaches who really know burnout and how to coach it, I want to invite you to join me for my 2-hour free live masterclass Burnoutology 101. I'll pop the link in the description and I'll see you there. But for now, I want to say thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. If any of this video has resonated with you, if you have seen yourself in what I've described, or you've seen some of your clients in what I've described, I really genuinely want to urge you to focus on being burnout informed, because burnout is changing your clients faster than the coaching is. You can be an amazing coach, but if you don't know what to look for, then 6 months, a year from now, it could be your clients who have either become seriously ill or who are facing burnout that nearly kills them. I don't want that for you. I don't want that for your clients. I don't want that for the coaching profession.